The Biden administration is making good on its promise to send coronavirus vaccines directly to U.S. pharmacies. 1 million doses are currently on their way to locations all over the nation. Many states have already been sending vaccines to stores like these, but this is the first time the federal government has sent doses directly to them. So far, nearly 34 million Americans have received at least one dose, with more than 26 million new doses distributed after President Biden was sworn into office. But there still seems to be a lot of mixed messaging when it comes to the vaccination process. In Los Angeles, thousands of appointments went unfilled at Dodger Stadium Tuesday. Then, 2 days later, vaccine sites, including the sports facility, were closed due to a shortage. Dr. Farah Fourcand is in Edison, New Jersey. She's a neurologist and the author of the Pandemic Manifesto, COVID-19 Basic Training from the Front Lines. And full disclosure, she's also my cousin. Welcome to the show, Dr. Fourcand. Good to see you.
Good to see you, cousin.
All right. So let's get into this. Many eligible people in the country are still having a hard time getting vaccinated. What needs to happen to turn this around?
Well, I think it's overall just confusion over the vaccine. There's two elements to it. First of all, the lightning speed at which the vaccine was developed. And then secondly, confusion over the mechanism of action of this vaccine, which is the first of its kind to be used. So with regards to the lightning speed, in the past, there's been trials like umbrella trials, which test multiple vaccines for a disease all at once, which have logistical issues. And then there are challenge vaccines or challenge clinical trials whereby patients or volunteers are given a vaccination and then given the virus, which has ethical concerns. So the lightning speed at which this was done was because of the mechanism of action, which is messenger RNA. Now, that is something that even some of my colleagues have concerns about. Because most vaccines are live attenuated, meaning a sort of calmed down version of the virus, or inactivated vaccines. The reason that we were able to develop this vaccination so quickly was because of the messenger RNA factor. So messenger RNA is, or RNA is a mirror image of DNA. And messenger RNA is made outside of our cells, outside of our main hub, the nucleus. So there's much less concern for there being any sort of issue with genetic mutations and those things in the future, which what my colleagues and most of my educated citizens are concerned about. Now, with regards to access, messenger RNA vaccines, one of the good, really promising things about them is that they're able to be made in mass production. So it's really a matter of distribution, because the messenger RNA vaccines are capable of being produced exponentially. So I think it's more of a logistical issue rather than the actual ability to make the vaccines.
A lot of people are looking forward to getting the vaccine because there was this idea that it would be life back to normal and a bit of a free-for-all. And then we started hearing, no, even if you get the vaccine, you got to wear that mask. Even if you get the vaccine, you better wash your hands. And even if you get the vaccine, we still don't know. We know that it will protect you against severe symptoms, but we don't know. Maybe you can pass COVID-19 on to someone else. And now we're hearing from the CDC that people who are fully vaccinated can skip coronavirus quarantines, but only for 3 months. After that, they may have to quarantine if it's confirmed that they've been exposed to the virus. Wow. Why is that?
That only adds confusion to the already chaotic situation. So after the first dose of the vaccine, one still has to quarantine if exposed to a COVID positive person. After the second dose, they have to wait 2 more weeks after that in order to safely, quote unquote, safely, not have to quarantine after being around a COVID positive person. Now, the reason for that rationale is that, as I said earlier, the messenger RNA initially is in the vaccination. It triggers the production of that spike protein, which is that protein that sort of works with the ACE and helps the virus enter the body. But it takes time for that to happen in mass production. So the first dose, your body starts to use the messenger RNA to create the spike protein, and then the second dose, then it boosts that, similar to other vaccines that require booster shots. Now, 2 weeks after this, you're supposedly have enough of the spike protein to be immune to the virus. But there's a caveat to that. It's unknown how long immunity lasts. And this also goes for people who have natural immunity from having the virus itself. There's been studies also that show that people that initially have immunity to the virus, sometimes their immunity goes down. And that's been shown in healthcare workers and other people who have been COVID positive. So it's really unknown how long one is going to be immune. I would say that it only adds confusion that there are now variants of the coronavirus that a person may not be immune. They may not be immune even if they have immunity themselves. And the vaccine, it's hard to say if it will work because these vaccines are very, very specific based on messenger RNA. And RNA has like its own millions, trillion genetic code that if there's a subtle change or variant, the person may not have immunity, and therefore the person may not respond to the vaccine either. So to say also that somebody is vaccinated and then they've had their second shot, 2 weeks later they're immune and they don't have to quarantine for a few months, is also tricky because how about if they are exposed to a person who has a variant of the coronavirus? So a lot is up in the air, and I feel like it unfortunately just adds confusion.
So so the question of course becomes, what does this mean for herd immunity? And I've sort of heard this too, that that even when we're fully vaccinated, we're probably at various points in our lives going forward we'll have to wear a mask, or will not always, but it's never going to go away. I think that there are people who are hoping that life gets back to pre-COVID times, but I can tell you that even after SARS in Asia, people still wear masks occasionally, and there's always a fear that another virus outbreak will shut down a country or an economy. So is that what we're anticipating here in the U.S.?
I do feel that wearing a mask will become the norm, and I think there's several reasons for that. As we go through the different waves of COVID-19 in different countries, different states within our country, we have so many variables, so many unknowns. And as the virus continues to change, as viruses do, there will be other strains, other types, and with different sort of virulence, or what I call like viral violence, or that are pathological, and a lot that will be more benign. But until one of the variants of coronavirus or the COVID-19 sort of reigns supreme and takes over, because eventually that's what happens just as we naturally evolve, and these viruses also evolve, and then one sort of takes precedence, and then we have more of a reign on things. I feel that until that time, it will just become a part of everyday life.
It might not be a bad thing. I mean, there are other nasty bugs out there that perhaps, we don't want to catch either. Dr. Farah Fourcand, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Say hi to your mom.
I will.